Chapter 51, Aurora Tower. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The ninth peak, inside the cave. Are you only at the 8th level? Feeling the calmness in his body, Zhang Yun still had some unfinished thoughts. The wave of returned energy brought to him by Su Ming's breakthrough to the foundation building stage directly raised his level from the peak 5th level to the peak 8th level, but it was a little less than he expected. According to what he thought, this wave would reach the peak of the 10th level. But after reaching the peak of the 5th level, the energy absorbed by each level was much more than he expected, and he couldn't go up to the 8th level. It seems we have to wait until Xiaopang breaks through the foundation. Zhang Yun breathed out. Wu Xiaopang is still unable to break through, unlike Su Ming. Although Xiaopang had directly reached the peak of the qi refining stage before, his state was not solid. In his early years, Su Ming had reached the 5th level of the qi refining stage. After that, his spiritual roots were taken away and his cultivation level regressed. However, he never fell behind in his cultivation. Later, he awakened the second spiritual roots and the dragon blood sacred body, and rushed forward with his accumulated strength. The entire realm is very stable. With the resources available, it can be said that breaking through the foundation building is a matter of course. If Wu Xiaopang wants to break through the foundation building, he still needs some accumulation. You have to prepare some resources for Xiaopang to build the foundation. Zhang Yun thought for a while and couldn't help but look outside Lingxian's sect. Next, he had to make a trip to Zhong, because many of the resources obtained from this exchange trip are temporarily unavailable to him and his 2 apprentices. He wanted to go out and get something that could be used immediately. Thinking about it, Zhang Yun immediately took out the special sound transmission stone. Minger, Xiaopang. I am going to be in seclusion for a few days. Don't disturb me for the time being. Practice well. I will notify you when I am released. Yes, Master. Soon, Su Ming and Wu Xiaopang came back one after another. Zhang Yun put away the sound transmission stone and was about to leave, but after thinking about it, he disguised himself. The Lin family, Nanshan sect, and even the Nanzang treasure pavilion may now have the idea to take action against him. If his face were exposed publicly, it would probably lead to a series of pursuits. It is very dangerous for him to travel now, so he still needs to take some safety precautions. Wearing a bamboo hat, a mask, and a commoner, looked in the mirror, then he was satisfied and walked to the side of the bed, moved the bed with his spiritual energy, reached out and lifted up a piece in the middle of the floor, revealing a downward staircase. This is the secret passage left by the previous killer, which can lead directly to the outside of Lingxian's sect. He walked down a few steps and stepped hard on the 5th step. Creak. When the mechanism was touched, the lifted floor and removed bed immediately moved back to their original positions. After doing this, Zhang Yun lit a torch and headed out along the underground passage. Within a few minutes, he approached the exit, which was the mouth of an upward tunnel. He turned off the fire and flew the sword all the way out. Zhang Yun stopped before reaching the ground, groped around on the wall, found a place and pressed down. A notch appeared, and a round stone was placed inside. Inject a trace of spiritual energy into the stone. A ray of light suddenly emerged from the stone body, forming a picture in front of him. The picture shows a forest. Seeing that there was no one in the woods, Zhang Yun dissipated the spiritual energy on the stone, then lifted the floor cover above and flew out. Above this is the forest in the picture just now. He flew to the bushes on a big tree nearby and found another identical stone embedded in the tree. This kind of stone is called a video stone. If you input spiritual energy into it, the image near the video stone can be played back in real time, just like a camera. The piece in front of me is connected to the piece underground, and it was his predecessor who arranged it here. Every time you come out of the underground passage, you can confirm the situation outside through these 2 connected video stones. I checked the video stone. I didn't pay much attention to it at first, but suddenly I was startled, because there was a trace of hook marks on the video stone. Realizing something, he looked stern. Brush. Almost at the same time, a sharp edge cut through the bushes behind him and pointed directly at the back of his neck. Zhang Yun immediately dwarfed. This sharp edge suddenly passed over his head, allowing him to see clearly the appearance of the sharp iron hook. This is an iron hook embedded in the arm. 19. Your strength has dropped, but your reaction is still quick. The owner of this hand hook is a bald middle-aged man with an eye patch on his left eye and a hooded black robe. 20. Zhang Yun's expression darkened. The bald middle-aged man swung his hook directly towards his head. Kang. Zhang Yun immediately drew his flying sword and blocked the hand hook with his sword. There was a trace of contempt in the eyes of the bald middle-aged man, and a sharp spiritual energy burst out from his hand hook, and he pressed down hard. I saw a crack appearing on the flying sword. The next moment, it broke with a click. The hand hook slashed down, but only cut off some green leaves among the trees. My skills are not diminished. The bald middle-aged man looked at Zhang Yun, who jumped to the ground below and chuckled. Zhang Yun stared at this person with a cold face. You want to kill me? A useless person who has regressed in cultivation and foundation building is not worthy of being in our Aurora Tower. The key rankings are still on my head. The bald middle-aged man laughed and said, I've wanted your position of 19 for a long time. Zhang Yun took out the Yuntian sword directly. What, you still want to resist? The bald middle-aged man smiled and said, You know me, you should know that, with you now. Brush. Before he could finish speaking, Zhang Yun slashed at the opponent with his sword. Fearless struggle. The bald middle-aged man smiled disdainfully and raised his hand to draw. However, at the moment when the hand hook and the Yuntian sword were about to come into contact, the Yuntian sword suddenly disappeared in front of the hand hook like a bubble. Also disappearing at the same time was Zhang Yun in front of him. The bald middle-aged man was stunned. Where are people? Not good. The next second his expression changed suddenly, and he quickly ducked to one side. Puff. But Zhang Yun's sword flashed to his side and cut off his hooked arm. Ah! With a scream, the bald middle-aged man fell to the ground from midair. He covered his bleeding right shoulder and looked at Zhang Yun in disbelief. What kind of swordsmanship are you doing? In his knowledge, Zhang Yun does not have this skill. You are here to kill me. Is there someone in the building who has appointed you? Zhang Yun didn't reply. He just scratched the ground with the blood-stained Yuntian sword and walked towards the opponent step by step. The bald middle-aged man didn't even think about it. He covered his shoulders and stood up, wanting to run away, call out. Zhang Yun directly threw the Yuntian sword forward. Puff. More than 10 meters away, the Yuntian sword pierced directly into the opponent's left thigh like a javelin. Ah! The bald middle-aged man screamed and fell to the ground. At Zhang Yun's feet, Qin Yuan stepped in front of the fallen opponent, pulled out the Yuntian sword inserted in the opponent's thigh, and pointed it directly at the opponent's neck. Answer me, die happily. Or, die slowly. The bald middle-aged man looked pale. As the same killer in Jiguang Tower, he knew very well the other party's methods of torturing people. I didn't expect that I would fall into your hands today. It seems that my information is not in place. The bald middle-aged man laughed miserably, closed his eyes and said, The owner of the third floor asked me to come. Third floor owner. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows and chopped off the opponent's head without hesitation with the Yuntian sword in his hand. I really can't wait. His eyes narrowed slightly. Aurora Tower. This is the killer organization where his former killer belonged. This building is very mysterious. There are only 27 members in total, named from 1 to 27. This is both a name and a strength. He is 19, and the bald middle-aged man in front of him is 20, ranked 19. He looks good, but in fact his knowledge of this building is very limited, because only the top 5 members can truly know the exact information about this building. These people are the top killers, and they are also called the owners of the Aurora Tower. The 6th to 27th killers all need to follow their orders. The third poster mentioned by the bald middle-aged man is the third poster among them. Zhang Yun was not too surprised that the other party wanted to kill him. In Aurora Tower, it has always been a system of elimination based on strength. If you have the ability, kill the killer at the top of the ranking, and then your ranking will be able to take his place. In addition, Aurora Building will also take cleaning measures for some killers that have been determined to be useless. Generally speaking, the cleaning time will be 2 months later, and the specific time will depend on the situation. Because in history, there have been cases where a killer was disabled for a period of time, but then recovered after a while, and now that his cultivation level has fallen for less than half a month, the third floor owner is anxious to let 20 Lai kill him. It's so fast to eliminate dissidents. Zhang Yun sneered, the interior of Aurora building is not a peaceful place. The first 5 building owners have many conflicts with each other, especially the second and third building owners. Each of the killers from the 6th to the 27th took orders from a different poster. It can also be said that they are in the camp of a different poster. He is in the camp of the second floor owner. His predecessor entered the Aurora building and was promoted very quickly. He reached the 19th place at a young age. He was regarded as the emerging killer of the younger generation in the Aurora building. In the memory of his predecessor, the owner of the 3rd floor recruited him privately, hoping that he would switch to the camp, but he refused. This was obviously remembered by the 3rd floor owner. It's not too surprising to be anxious to kill him right now. We have to improve our strength as soon as possible. After letting out a breath, Zhang Yun felt anxious in his heart. Since the 3rd floor owner sent people to kill him and failed to kill him now, there will definitely be another wave in the future. These posters are basically people who are determined to retaliate against others. As long as you are remembered, you will be hunted endlessly. The only way to solve the problem is to kill the opponent. He didn't know the specific strength of this 3rd floor owner, but he had assassinated Yuanying stage. Trouble. Shaking his head, Zhang Yun dug a hole for the bald middle-aged body on the ground and buried it before heading out of the woods. The master on the 3rd floor will come to take revenge, and it won't be too soon. Because every assassin in Aurora Tower will be given 1 to 3 months to complete a mission. Even if this bald middle-aged man was sent as soon as he was deposed, less than half a month had passed, and he would still have at least 2.5 months of buffer time. Fairyland Chapter 52 South Mall. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Nanshang City is the largest trading city in the southern region of Nanyuan Prefecture. This is also known as Shaoshi Cave. To put it simply, it is the place where spiritual stones are destroyed. It is said that once you enter this place, no matter how many spiritual stones you bring, you will be able to spend them all. This city is also one of the few cities in the southern region that is not under the jurisdiction of Lingxian sect and Nanshan sect. Because this city is backed by Nanzangbo Pavilion, the giant chamber of commerce in the southern region, the city has the largest branch of Nanzangbo Pavilion in the southern region of Nanyuan Prefecture. Zhang Yun spent 2 days arriving outside the city. Entering the city, he was stopped by a row of guards. Zhang Yun took out 10 spiritual stones before the guards let him go. This is the rule of Nanshang City. As a trading city, you have to trade when you enter the city. 10 spiritual stones are equivalent to a ticket to the city. Stepping into the city, you will see a gorgeous scene in front of you, and under this gorgeous city area are countless small stalls. There are stall owners in front of each stall, selling a variety of items: elixirs, weapons, exercises, armor. Almost everything a monk can use can be found here. This can be regarded as a characteristic of South Mall. There are such trading stalls from the beginning to the end of the city, but the quality of the items sold at these stalls depends on personal discernment, because anyone can spend a few spiritual stones to rent a stall, and it's up to you to decide what items to sell. These will not be specially inspected. So when buying things from these stalls, you have to keep your eyes peeled. Low-grade elixir, snow lotus pill. The quality is inferior. The efficacy of the drug is seriously lost, and it can only exert less than 30% of its efficacy. Low-grade elixir, white fire vine. Year, 5 years. Due to improper handling during picking, the efficacy of the medicine was seriously lost. Sharp weapon, water iron knife. Quality, average. Black iron stone is used for forging, but the skill of the knife maker is limited and the blade is brittle. It may be broken during battle. Zhang Yun glanced over, and the immortal master's heavenly eye brought him pieces of information. The immortal master's heavenly eye is truly omnipotent, that with a curl of the corner of his mouth, he immediately stepped into the street and scanned the area with his immortal master's heavenly eyes. You can tell the quality of various things at a glance. Buy the good things you need one by one. After sweeping all the way and walking 2 streets, Zhang Yun found that half of the spiritual stone on his body was missing. Oh my God, he now carries more than 200,000 spirit stones. This includes the trophies collected from the exchange meeting and the 110,000 spirit stones won from the master of the Nanshan sect. We have only walked 2 streets to Nanshang City, but we have already spent more than 100,000 spiritual stones. as an elder, his annual salary is only 2,000 spirit stones. This is equivalent to spending decades of salary. No wonder it's called Shaoshi Cave. Zhang Yun breathed out, he has to be more economical next, after all, he still has 2 apprentices to support. Head all the way towards the South Treasure Pavilion branch in the city. Although he resisted and wanted to stop buying anything along the way, he couldn't help it because of the things that caught his immortal eye at various stalls. After spending nearly 50,000 spiritual stones in this way, he finally reached the gate of the South Treasure Pavilion branch. Just make up for it from here. Looking at the luxuriously decorated 3-story attic in front of him, Zhang Yun thought and stepped into it. When he came to the South Mall this time, in addition to buying some cultivation items that he and his 2 disciples could use, he was also planning to sell some of the 100-year-old elixirs he had previously obtained in the underground cave. There are not many chambers of commerce that have the ability to take these century-old elixirs. Zhang Yun doesn't know much about this, but he is sure that Nan Zongbao Pavilion must be one of them. Although he didn't like Mu Wenxuan, the young master of the South Treasure Pavilion, he still had to deal with the South Treasure Pavilion when doing business in the Southern Territory. Welcome. As soon as I entered the pavilion, I heard a clear and sweet sound like an oriole coming from both sides. He saw 2 rows of young and beautiful women, wearing low-cut cheongsam, all bowing and smiling at him. The sight of white flowers made Zhang Yun's face tremble, and he hurriedly walked inward without squinting. What does this guest need? Just after passing between these 2 rows of girls, another woman wearing the same cheongsam, but more mature came forward. Although Zhang Yun was dressed tightly, the woman didn't pay attention. With a smile that made people feel like spring breeze on her face, Zhang Yun glanced at the other party and said, I want to sell some high-grade elixirs. Some high-quality elixir. The mature woman's eyes brightened slightly, and she quickly made a pleased gesture. Please come with me, my guest. Zhang Yun nodded and followed the other person inside. On the first floor of the attic is a wide hall with many counters. The flow of people coming and going is not much worse than the street outside. And for every guest who comes in, there is a cheongsam woman in front of him to lead the way. Zhang Yun looked at and nodded slightly. It makes sense for Nan Zangbo Pavilion to become bigger, at least in terms of service. The mature woman took him up the wide stairs to the 2nd floor. Many people around were going up to the 2nd floor. When we arrived on the 2nd floor, we saw that almost all of these people were being led in one direction. Zhang Yun was curious. Where are they going? Guests, they are going to the auction venue. Today is the day of the March auction of our Nanshan branch. The mature woman answered with a smile. Auctions? Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows and asked immediately, then can my elixir be put up for auction? That if his century-old elixir were put up for auction, it would be much better than selling it directly. Although part of the commission will be taken away by the organizer, generally the rarer and more precious the item is, the higher the price it will fetch at auction. For example, the baby transformation pill has a market price of 100,000 spirit stones, but if it is auctioned, it may be possible to sell it for 150,000 spirit stones, or even 200,000 spirit stones. There is no other reason. Scarcity is king. It goes without saying that the century-old elixir is rare. The mature woman hesitated for a moment and said, if the customer wants to put things up for sale at the auction, the value needs to be evaluated by our sect leader in advance. But now the auction is about to start. If it is just an ordinary high-grade elixir, if. She didn't say any more, but the meaning was clear. Zhang Yun Dao, what if it is a 100-year-old top-grade elixir? 100 years. The mature woman's eyes suddenly widened, and she quickly said, I'm still treating you. Your distinguished guest will come with me. As he spoke, he hurriedly stepped forward, his posture obviously becoming more respectful. Zhang Yun didn't pay attention and followed him all the way to a door. The mature woman gently knocked on the door. Enter. Soon a voice came from inside. Invite you. The mature woman opened the door and made a please gesture to Zhang Yun. Zhang Yun nodded and walked in. The room was very spacious, with a red animal skin carpet on the floor, a coffee table and a sofa inside, and a desk next to it. At this moment, standing next to the desk, was a middle-aged man wearing a Chinese robe, with a clean face and a meticulous look. Deacon Lin, this distinguished guest has a 100-year-old high-grade elixir that he would like to take part in this auction. The mature woman spoke immediately. A century-old top-grade elixir. Deacon Lin, who didn't pay much attention at first, his eyes narrowed when he heard this. He quickly looked at Zhang Yun, not paying attention to his tightly wrapped attire, and asked politely, "I wonder what your distinguished guest is called." "Cloud." Zhang Yun spat out a word lightly. "It turns out to be Mr. Yun, please sit down." Deacon Lin nodded, stretched out his hand to gesture towards the sofa, and at the same time glanced at the mature woman. The latter understood and immediately exited the room. Zhang Yun was not polite and sat down on the sofa. Seeing that the other party was about to make tea, he waved his hand. "I don't need tea. Let's just take a look." As he spoke, he took out 3 brocade boxes from the storage ring. "Okay." Deacon Lin put down the teapot and was surprised when he saw the 3 brocade boxes in front of him. "Are there 300-year-old elixirs?" One of them was opened slightly, a faint fruity medicinal fragrance gushed out, and when he saw the earthy yellow fruit inside, Deacon Lin perked up. "This is a century-old earth spirit fruit." Zhang Yun nodded, not too surprised that the other party could name the elixir at a glance. To become a deacon of a large chamber of commerce like Nan Zongbao Pavilion, you basically need to master some skills. The person in front of me is probably a treasure appraiser. It's a soil spirit fruit, but the year to be precise is 190. Zhang Yun said lightly. 190 years. Deacon Lin raised his eyebrows, looked at it carefully, and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Mr. Yun, I'm just blind." "It doesn't matter." Zhang Yun waved his hand. "Continue to look at the remaining 2 types. Your auction should start soon, right? Hurry." "Okay." Deacon Lin nodded. A 100-year-old heavenly herb. A 100-year-old 3-leaf rhombus. After opening the 2 brocade boxes and taking a look at each, Deacon Lin couldn't help but open his mouth slightly, and quickly realized something. These are all close to 200 years old. Zhang Yun nodded and said, "Let's evaluate it." "Mr. Yun, this auction is divided into 2 stages. This earth spirit fruit can be auctioned at the finale of the first stage. What do you think?" Deacon Lin said. Zhang Yun waved his hand. "You can arrange the order of the auction. Let's talk about the commission. If you take a commission." Deacon Lin pondered for a moment and raised 3 fingers. "I'll charge you 3%, what do you think?" "Okay." Zhang Yun nodded. "The general commission for auctions is 10%, and the proportion will be reduced for some high-value lots. 3% is very fair. As for only taking out 3 high-grade elixirs, it was because things are rare and valuable. The most rare thing about a century-old elixir is that it is rare. If too many appear at once, the value will be suppressed. 3 kinds, no more, no less." Fairyland Chapter 53 Auction. You are listening at novelfold.audio. After leaving Deacon Lin's room, Zhang Yun was taken to a VIP box on the 3rd floor of the attic by the mature woman from before. There is a row of couches in the box, and a coffee table in front of the sofa is filled with fruits. In front of it is a huge floor-to-ceiling window with an excellent view, and you can clearly see the entire auction venue below. The mature woman introduced him. "Mr. Yun, this floor-to-ceiling window is made of one-way glass, and there are spiritual energy formations on both ends of the mirror. You can see the outside through this window, but the outside cannot see in through this window." Zhang Yun nodded. It's no surprise that Nan Zongbao Pavilion can produce such things. Although the immortal continent is said to be a world of cultivating immortals, some things are actually not behind modern times. "Mr. Yun, do you need anything else?" The mature woman suddenly bowed down, deliberately lowering her chest, and her tone was filled with a hint of coquettish questioning. Zhang Yun didn't look over, but just waved his hand. "You can go out, I can be alone here." Okay. The mature woman was a little disappointed, but she still bowed and exited the box. Zhang Yun glanced at the closed door of the box. How could he not see the hint of a mature woman? But he had no interest in the latter. In addition, we can also guess that the latter came with the idea of finding out his identity. for someone like him who could produce 3-century-old top-grade elixirs at once, it was impossible not to be curious about the Nanzang Treasure Pavilion. Thank you for coming to participate in this Nanshan branch auction. At this time, a white-haired old man in a black dress walked up to the stage of the auction venue below. I am the host of this auction, Lao Wan. Now, let's bring out the first lot of this auction. As the old man fell down with a sound, the curtain behind the auction table opened, and immediately a graceful woman in Cheongsam came out carrying a tray. On the tray is a small jade bottle filled with half a bottle of milky white spiritual liquid. This is the first item in this auction, a top-grade body-tempering spirit liquid. The above-grade elixir, the spirit-quenching fruit, is mixed with a variety of medium-grade elixirs. It can help monks in the chi refining and foundation building stages to temper their physiques. Lao Wan started to introduce it. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows. This body-tempering spirit liquid can help Wu Xiaopeng temper his overlord body and speed up his foundation building speed. The starting price for this spiritual liquid is 500 spiritual stones. Now, you can start bidding. That with a sound, Lao Wan fell. 600 spirit stones. 700. 705, there were a lot of bidding calls at the auction venue immediately. The spiritual liquid that helps to strengthen the body during the chi refining and foundation building stages is rare on the market, but it is quite popular. However, after the price reached 1,000 spirit stones, the bidding volume in the field decreased significantly. Zhang Yun saw that it was almost done, so he picked up the bidding tool on the coffee table next to him and said, 1,005. As soon as the voice came out, the venue fell silent. People looked towards the box where he was, a little surprised. Anyone who can sit in a box on the 3rd floor of the attic to participate in the auction is either rich or noble. It is relatively rare for such people to start bidding so early. No one in the venue called out the price for a while. After all, price aside, no one is willing to offend someone who can sit in the box for such a bottle of body-tempering spiritual liquid. The VIP in box number 12 bids 1,500 spirit stones. Is there any higher price? Lao Wan on the stage asked symbolic questions, and when no one spoke, he waved the auction gavel. Deal. Zhang Yun breathed out. The normal market price of high-grade body-tempering spiritual liquid is at least 1,000, 200 or 300 spirit stones, but it is difficult to come across. It can be obtained for 1,500 spirit stones, which is not expensive. The next is the second lot of this auction. After the quenching fluid, the lots were brought up one after another. The value may be high or low, but even the lowest ones are some high-grade elixirs worth at least several hundred spirit stones. These high-grade elixirs are rare outside, but they are just the most common items in this auction, which shows the level of this auction. Zhang Yun couldn't help but wonder, what will be behind? If there was a sword-like spiritual weapon or something like that, he wouldn't mind bidding on it with some blood flower spirit stones. The Yuntian sword is good, but it would be better if there is a spiritual weapon. Lots came on the market one after another, all very attractive, but Zhang Yun did not bid again, because it's not what he needs. In this way, the auction quickly came to the end of the first stage. Next is the grand finale of the first phase of this auction. You don't want to miss it. Because this is a century-old top-grade elixir that is rarely encountered in ordinary times. Lao Wan spoke loudly on the stage. A century-old elixir? Or a top-grade one? Here I go. I never heard that there would be such good things in this auction. As soon as these words came out, there was a commotion in the venue. Century-old top-grade elixirs are rarely found even in large trading cities like Nanshang City. For a time, there was movement even in some boxes. The top-grade elixir from the 190s, the Earth Spirit Fruit. Lao Wan opened the brocade box in front of him, revealing the plump Earth Spirit Fruit inside. 190 years. Oh my God! A soil spirit fruit that is close to 200 years old. Hell, monks who practice Earth attribute skills are not allowed to fly when they get this fruit. There were exclamations in the field, and many monks' eyes glowed with fiery light. The purpose of this fruit. After an introduction, Lao Wan announced loudly, the starting price for this fruit is 10,000 spirit stones, and each increase in price must not be less than 100 spirit stones. Now, you can start bidding. 10,100 spirit stones. 10,500. Just in case, as soon as the voice fell, a series of bidding sounds immediately arose in the venue. In box 12, Zhang Yun's lips curled up when he saw this scene. 20,000. At this time, a call for price silenced the audience. Zhang Yun raised his brows and couldn't help but look towards a box on the same floor. There are a total of 15 VIP boxes in the auction house, and he doesn't know how many people are sitting there. There were so many auction items before, but only 2 boxes were bid. The price being bid at the moment was a box that had not been heard before. Although he didn't know the identities of the people in these boxes, he could roughly guess some, or, like him, he provided the grand finale of the auction. Or some monks who have reached the golden elixir stage. In fact, even if he came with his true identity, he could sit in the box. Lingxian sect and Nanshan sect are the 2 dominant forces in the southern region. When the elders come, the branch of Nanzangbo Pavilion will also give them some favor. At this moment, there might be 2 sect elders sitting in these boxes. The VIP in box 5 bids 20,000 spirit stones. Is there any higher price? On the stage below, Lao Wan asked loudly. There was silence. Zhang Yun frowned slightly when he saw this. Although 20,000 spiritual stones was a lot, it was still lower than he expected. After all, based on the normal selling price, he estimated that this earth spirit fruit could be sold for 15,000 to 18,000 spirit stones, or even 20,000. It was not impossible. Now when it comes to the auction, if the price is not raised by 20 to 30%, it is not qualified in his opinion. Do you want to be your own supporter? That he touched his chin, but after thinking about it, I still shook my head. It would be embarrassing if no one followed me. 20,001. At this time, a bidding sound sounded. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows and looked towards the other box. The VIP in box number 2 bids 21,000 spirit stones. Is there anything higher? Lao Wan, who was about to swing the auction mallet below, paused and asked loudly, looking at the boxes. At this price, generally the only ones who can afford it are the VIPs in these boxes. 22,000. The price call sounded, and it was box number 5 again. Lao Wan's eyes lit up and he was about to continue asking when the second box shouted again, 23,000. 24,000. 25,000. 26,000. For a moment, it was as if the bargaining chip was on, and the 2 boxes were bidding back and forth. Zhang Yun's mouth curled up when he saw this. Fight, the higher the price, the better. However, when the price reached 27,000. 30,000, a sudden voice sounded. Chapter 54, Golden Dragon Bloodline. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The whole audience was stunned. They all looked at box number 4, who suddenly made a sound at this moment. Is this a sudden attack? The VIP in box 4 bids 30,000 spiritual stones. Is there anything higher? But when Lao Wan spoke, his voice was a little louder. As the presiding auctioneer, the higher the price of the auction item, the more commission he will receive. Apart from Zhang Yun, he can be said to be the second person in the crowd who hopes that the earth spirit fruit will fetch a high price. His eyes glanced at the 2 boxes number 2 and number 5 that had just been bid. Both boxes fell into silence. This price is obviously the psychological price of the people in these 2 boxes. 30,000 spiritual stones once. 30,000 spiritual stones twice. 30,000 spiritual stones. Seeing this, Lao Wan could only speak loudly, but he was still unwilling to give up and slowed down his speech a little. When he saw that no one spoke, he finally said, "Deal." Call. When this sound fell, there was also a sound of exhalation in the field. 30,000 spiritual stones is the highest price ever paid in this auction so far. The first phase of the auction has officially ended. The second phase of the auction will begin in 10 minutes. Please take a break. After Lao Wan finished speaking, he left the auction stage. In box number 12, Zhang Yun picked up a banana and ate it with a smile on his face. 30,000 spirit stones were much higher than he expected. Sure enough, putting it up for auction was the right choice. In box number 5, a man wearing a green robe with a pair of triangular eyes had a gloomy expression. If Zhang Yun sees it, he will definitely recognize that this person is Meng Zhong. Meng Zhong looked at Box 2 and Box 4 with a very unhappy expression. The moment he saw this earth spirit fruit, he made up his mind to get it. Because he mainly practices earth attribute skills, if he can obtain this earth spirit fruit, his realm is expected to rise from a minor achievement in the golden elixir stage to a great achievement in a short period of time. Seeing that 20,000 spiritual stones were about to be taken, box number 2 stepped in. Box number 4 then offered another 30,000 spiritual stones. In addition to the spiritual stones that the adult must prepare for the mission, he only has more than 20,000 extra spiritual stones. The thought of this made him angry. Damn Zhang Yun, Meng Zhong gritted his teeth. If he hadn't lost to Zhang Yun the 10,000 spirit stones before, he wouldn't have been unable to get even the 30,000 spirit stones now. Earth spirit fruit from the 190s. If I miss it, I don't know how many years I have to wait before I can meet again. He suddenly looked at box 4, with a hint of coldness in his eyes. In box number 2, sitting here now is the third elder of the Nanshan sect who was ranked second only to Zhang Yun at the exchange meeting between the two sects not long ago. Staring at box number 4, the third elder of the Nanshan sect asked the charming woman in his arms, who is sitting here. Third elder, this servant is not clear about this. That the woman nestled in his arms shook her head. You are so brave to dare to steal my elder's things. That the third elder of the Nanshan sect snorted. That's okay. I was originally photographed to show my filial piety to the sect leader, so forget it if I can't photograph it. But you, as one of the deacons of the Nanshan branch, really don't know? Third elder, the slave family really doesn't know, that the charming woman said coquettishly. Besides, third elder, it's not like you don't know the rules in our pavilion. Even if you do know, the slave family can't tell. Based on your relationship with this elder, what else can't be said? That the third elder of Nanshan sect suddenly laughed and raised and lowered his hands. Oh, third elder, you are evil, that the charming woman scolded. Bad? This elder has something even worse. The third elder of the Nanshan sect chuckled and threw the charming woman down. In box 4. I didn't expect that when I come to Nanyang Prefecture, I can encounter such quality soil spirit fruit. I'm really lucky. That a young man in a Chinese robe leaned on the sofa, gnawing on an apple and smiled. This is not our goal this time. On the left side of the box, there was a young man in black holding a scabbard, leaning against the wall, and said calmly, don't spend too many spiritual stones on these irrelevant things. I know, that the young man in the Chinese robe waved his hands casually, and suddenly looked at the crowds in the auction house below, and licked the corner of his mouth. These monks in Nanyans who look so delicious, I really want to slaughter them. Don't go crazy, that the young man in black said solemnly. The young man in the Chinese robe chuckled and lay on the sofa without saying anything more. 10 minutes passed quickly, and Lao Wan returned to the auction stage. Now entering the second stage of this auction, let's take out the first lot. As Lao Wan's voice sounded, everyone present also came to their senses. I saw a white fong that was 1 meter long being carried onto the stage and carried to the auction table by a strong man. This is a fong from the White Fang Tiger, the peak spiritual beast of the Golden Core stage. This tooth is extremely strong and can be used as a material for making spiritual weapons. Lao Wan introduced. Box number 12. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows slightly. Spiritual weapon materials are rare. But after thinking about it, he still didn't participate in the bidding. Because even if you take the picture, you still have to find a caster to make it. In Nanyang Prefecture, there are very few casters who can create spiritual weapons. Even if you find it, asking them to forge a spiritual weapon will cost you thousands of spiritual stones at least, and it also depends on their mood. I wish I could have a golden finger to forge spiritual weapons one day. Zhang Yun couldn't help but think, I wonder if there is such a golden finger in his world of immortal masters. Not to mention it's even possible. After all, there are even buildings like the 10,000 Realms Kung Fu Pavilion, so it's normal to have a 10,000 Realms Forging Hall or something like that, right? Maybe there are a bunch of spiritual weapons directly inside. Thinking about it, Zhang Yun couldn't wait. Upgrade. You need to upgrade your permissions quickly. Now that Su Ming has broken through the foundation building stage, as long as he reaches the peak of the foundation building stage, his authority can be upgraded to the 3rd level. After Ming'er's realm is consolidated, directly bombard him with a wave of resources. Zhang Yun touched his chin and thought, reaching the peak from the 1st level of the foundation stage seems very far away, but if you have enough resources, you can do it very quickly. The auction continues in the venue. Lots were brought to the stage one after another, compared with the 1st stage. The quality of the auction items in this 2nd stage is obviously a higher level. Even if the value is low, it can generally be sold for more than 2,000 spirit stones. There was even a roll of high-quality skills that sold for a high price of 20,000 spirit stones. During the process, Zhang Yun also took action once, spending 3,000 spirit stones to take a pair of white tiger gloves. This is a choice after being identified by the immortal master Sky Eye. This pair of white tiger boxing gloves is the top class of sharp weapons. It is very suitable for Wu Xiaopang, who likes to use fists as his main means of attack. Thank you for staying with me until now. Next, we will enter the end of this auction, the finale of the 2nd stage. That as the bidding for another lot came to an end, Lao Wan on the auction stage suddenly said, in this finale, a total of 3 lots have been prepared for the distinguished guests present to bid. Now, let us invite the first finale lot. As soon as the words fell, a graceful Cheongsam woman walked up from the curtain aisle behind the stage carrying a tray. On the tray, there was a crystal bottle only the size of a little finger, which contained a drop of golden liquid. This is. Everyone looked curious. Looking at the curious eyes of everyone, Lao Wan smiled mysteriously. This first auction item is from a Nascent Soul Stage Spirit Beast. Nascent Soul Stage Spirit Beast. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the audience was shocked. Is this the essence and blood of the Nascent Soul Stage Spirit Beast? Someone reacted. That's right, this is exactly a drop of blood essence from a spirit beast in the Nascent Soul Stage. Lao Wan nodded and introduced loudly. This blood essence comes from a Nascent Soul Stage Spirit Beast with the bloodline of a golden dragon, the Golden Sea Spiritual Jiao. Dragon Bloodline. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was shocked, and a pair of eyes couldn't help but feel a trace of heat as they looked at the blood on the tray. As the emperor among spiritual beasts, dragon, even if it does not have the purest blood, the benefit of this blood essence to monks is huge. Golden Dragon Bloodline. In box number 12, Zhang Yun perked up when he heard the name. What Su Ming needs to activate his mutated red gold dragon spiritual roots is the blood of the golden dragon. Now Su Ming is only temporarily activated by metallic substances, which must be replenished once a month, and this activation is not complete. In Su Ming's current state, he can only barely activate his spiritual roots to practice, and most of the power of his spiritual roots has not yet been unleashed. If he could get this drop of blood essence containing the blood of the golden dragon, Zhang Yun didn't know what kind of changes it would bring to Su Ming, but the benefits would definitely outweigh the disadvantages. This drop of essence and blood must be taken. Chapter 55. If you can't afford to shoot, you have to rely on acid? You are listening at novelfold.audio. The starting price for this drop of Golden Sea Spirit Dragon's blood is 10,000 spirit stones, and each bid must not be less than 1,000 spirit stones. Lao Wan waved his hand. Now, you can start bidding. 20,000. Everyone in the field was about to speak, but the bidding sound from a box above stopped them. Everyone looked at box number 5. Damn it, can't you let us compete a few times first and satisfy our bidding addiction? 21,000. Another bidding sound came from box number 10, a box that had not been bid much before. 22,000. The bidding sound continued from box number 5. 23,000. Box number 10 was not to be outdone, and at the same time a rough voice came out. I am the 5th elder of the Nanhai sect. This Golden Sea Spirit Dragon Essence blood is wanted by our sect. Whoever dares to snatch it will be the enemy of our Nanhai sect. Nanhai sect? Is it the sea-occupying overlord in the central area of Nanyunsu? Why did their elders come to our southern part? If you snatch it, you will be the enemy. Isn't this too overbearing? As soon as this was said, there was a lot of discussion in the field. Zhang Yun also narrowed his eyes slightly. Nanhai sect is the overlord of the central area of Nanyunsu. In terms of strength, it can be regarded as the strongest sect in the entire Nanyunsu. Lingxian sect and Nanshan sect are also much inferior to it, because there are 2 Yuanying stage masters in this Nanhai sect. Box number 10 announced his identity, and the field suddenly became quiet, and box number 5 was silent. The VIP of box number 10 bid 23,000 spirit stones. Is there a higher price? On the auction table, Lao Wan looked a little ugly. As an auctioneer, what he hates most is people who use their power to bully others at auctions. After all, if this happens, no one dares to compete, and it will be difficult to raise the transaction price. Seeing the silence in the venue, his heart sank. This is a drop of blood essence of a Yuanying stage spirit beast with dragon blood. Even if it is sold at the lowest market price on the market, the price starts at 20,000 spirit stones. Sold for 23,000. Then this auction is a complete failure. As an auctioneer, he must take the blame, at least a lot of commission will be deducted. 25,000. Just as Lao Wan raised the auction hammer with trembling hands and was about to drop it, a voice suddenly sounded. Lao Wan was refreshed, and looked at a box above as if he saw a savior, and said loudly, 25,000 spirit stones. The VIP in box number 12 bids 25,000 spirit stones. Humph. The cold snort of the 5th elder of the Nanhai sect came from box number 10. Being in the number 12 box, Zhang Yun could clearly feel a chill coming, but he didn't care. So what about the Nanhai sect? He wouldn't give up anything his apprentice needed. 26,000, that the 5th elder of the Nanhai sect snorted and bid. 27,000. Zhang Yun didn't hesitate and followed directly. 28,000. 29,000, that the 2 people's bidding became the only sound in the whole venue. The people in the venue looked at the number 12 box with surprise. Are they really not afraid of the Nanhai sect? 30,000, that the 5th elder of the Nanhai sect bid again, and shouted coldly, the bastards in the number 12 box, if you have the guts, keep bidding. Hearing this, Lao Wan below couldn't help it. VIP in the number 10 box, please don't go too far, that they can't control the use of power to pressure people, but this kind of naked threat against a certain guest at the auction is a challenge to their Nanzangbo pavilion. This drop of golden sea spirit dragon's blood, our sect must get 30,000 spirit stones, that the 5th elder of the Nanhai sect snorted and didn't say anything else, but everyone could understand the threat in his tone. Lao Wan looked ugly, and couldn't help looking at box number 12. Fearing that the other party would give up. 31,000. But his worry was obviously unnecessary. Hearing the bidding, Lao Wan was excited. 31,000 spirit stones. The VIP of box number 12 bids 31,000 spirit stones. You are good, bastard. The cold voice of the 5th elder of the Nanhai sect came from box number 10. The people present shuddered, knowing that box number 12 had completely offended the 5th elder of the Nanhai sect. Zhang Yun ignored it. Lao Wan saw that box number 10 had stopped talking coldly, and knew that the situation was almost the same. Although it was still a little worse than expected, he still raised the auction hammer. 40,000. Just as he was about to drop the hammer, a voice suddenly sounded. The whole audience was stunned. Zhang Yun was also stunned, frowning and looking at the voice of box number 5. 40,000 spiritual stones. The VIP in box number 5 bid 40,000 spiritual stones. Is there a higher price? Lao Wan was very excited. Zhang Yun took a breath and continued to bid. 41,000. 50,000. As soon as the voice fell, the voice of bidding came from box number 5. Wow. There was an uproar in the field. What's going on in box number 5? Increasing by 10,000 at a time, is this not treating spiritual stones as spiritual stones? 51,000. Before everyone thought about it, Zhang Yun's bidding continued. Everyone was surprised. What else? 51,000 spiritual stones. The VIP in box number 12 bid 51,000 spiritual stones. Is there a higher price? Lao Wan was very excited, and his eyes could not help but look at box number 5. I thought it was over at 31,000, but I didn't expect it to soar to 51,000 in a blink of an eye. It was a complete surprise for him. Will it be higher? In box number 5. Are you crazy? Meng Zhong stared at box 12 with a gloomy expression. This time, the master prepared a total of 50,000 spiritual stones for him, so that he must take pictures of this drop of golden sea dragon essence and blood. He deliberately added 10,000 to 10,000 just to make the guy in box 12 quit. These 50,000 spirit stones are still with you? Do you think there are too many spirit stones? 60,000. Meng Zhong gritted his teeth and continued to bid. That adult's mission must be completed, even if it costs one's own money, it must be won. 60,000. But the sound that immediately rang out from box 12 made him couldn't help but stare. Is this really crazy? Meng Zhong clenched his fists angrily, checked the spirit stones in the storage ring and almost shouted, 70,000. 70,000 to 1. However, the almost seamless bidding sound completely destroyed the energy he had just raised. He looked at box number 12 angrily. Crazy. This bastard is absolutely crazy. Everyone in the venue was also stunned. The auction was supposed to end at 30,000 yuan, but now it has reached 71,000 yuan. In box number 12, Zhang Yun looked calm. If the price of other things is high, then give up. But the golden dragon bloodline, which plays a key role in his apprentice Su Ming, must be captured even with the use of spiritual stones. After all, this is not only about Su Ming, but also about his improvement in strength. VIP number 12 bid 71,000 spiritual stones. Is there any higher price? On the auction stage, Lao Wan was already crazy with joy. After waiting for a long time, seeing that box number 5 was silent, he immediately waved the auction gavel without any hesitation. Deal. Call. Zhang Yun breathed a sigh of relief and finally won. 71,000 spiritual stones. TSK, you are really stupid and have too much money. At this time, a sarcastic laugh suddenly came. Apparently from the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect in box number 10. Is Nanhai sect so poor? If you can't afford to shoot, you can only rely on acid. Zhang Yun replied lightly. You bastard, you're looking for death. The fifth elder of Nanhai sect immediately shouted angrily. Zhang Yun only responded with a chuckle and turned off the bidding tool. In box number 10, the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect, who had a scar on his face, was so angry that he couldn't help but see the aura of the peak of the golden core stage. He stared at box number 12 with his eyes fixed on him. He has decided that after the auction is over, he will drag out the offal in the box and chop it into meat paste. Next is the second grand finale of this auction. Seeing that the boxes above him stopped, Lao Wan finally spoke. This lot is a bit special. It is bundled with 2 elixirs for auction. And these 2 elixirs are both 100-year-old top-grade elixirs that are over 190 years old. Medicine. Following his words, 2 brocade boxes were brought up to 2 graceful Cheongsam women. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows slightly when he saw this. I haven't seen these 2 elixirs for a long time. It turned out that they were bundled and placed here. Also, a single plant is really not qualified to be the finale of this second stage. I don't know if it was affected by the recent bidding for the essence and blood of the Golden Sea spiritual dragon. This wave of bidding was also particularly fierce. 2 century-old top-grade elixirs were finally bought for box number 4 for 65,000 spirit stones. Zhang Yun couldn't help but take another look at box number 4, because the earth spirit fruit in front was also taken by the other party. In other words, the 300-year-old elixirs he took out cost the other party 95,000 spirit stones to obtain. I have to say, this auction is really good. He originally expected to sell the 3 elixirs to Nan Zongbao Pavilion and exchange them for 60,000 spirit stones. This auction was good, it was 50% more. Next is the last lot of this auction. Compared with the previous lots, this last lot is a little special. Because this lot is a living thing. Fairyland Chapter 56 Mermaid Girl. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Living thing. Everyone present was startled. Could it be a spiritual beast cub? The eyes of some animal taming monks couldn't help but light up. If it is a spirit beast cub that can be placed in the finale, it must be a high-level, top-quality spirit beast cub. Zhang Yun also looked curious. The final lot that ranks behind his 200-year-old high-grade elixirs is still a living thing. could it be the cub of a spiritual beast in the nascent soul stage? Under the curious eyes of everyone in the audience, they saw 4 strong men walking out from behind the curtain of the auction table at the same time, carrying an object covered with red cloth and which was several meters long. So big, that everyone was surprised, for strong men placed the objects covered with red cloth on the stage. This final auction item is not a spiritual beast, but comes from a foreign race. While introducing, Lao Wan reached out and grabbed a corner of the red cloth and opened it. A half-human tribe that lives on the seabed 1,000 meters below the sea, a mermaid girl with pure blood among the mermaid tribe. As the red cloth was lifted, a huge crystal cabinet came into view, and in the cabinet, a beautiful girl with black hair and an exquisite face was huddled in the corner and shivering. But unlike humans, her lower body is a white fish tail. Wow! The whole place was in an uproar. Mermaid girl? Everyone has heard of this race more or less, but this is the first time they have actually seen it. Even Zhang Yun was no exception. He looked around with some surprise in his eyes. However, a piece of information suddenly popped up in front of his eyes. Mermaid girl, qualifications, heaven level, mermaid and sky water spirit body, top quality water spirit root, bone age, 32, equivalent to 16 human years, realm, 5th level of the chi refining stage, originally the peak of the chi refining stage. The inner elixir was damaged and fell. Cultivation technique, Fishman's secret code, spirit level technique, combat skills, talents Murloc pilgrimage, mermaid song, water jet, defects. 1. The inner elixir of the fishman is seriously damaged. 2nd, the top quality water spirit root is not fully activated. Cultivation suggestions, help him repair his inner elixir, provide him with top-grade water attribute elixirs, and use top-grade water attribute elixirs that are over 100 years old to fully activate his top-grade water spiritual roots. Zhang Yun looked surprised. Heaven-level qualification. This is a rare opportunity. Looks like we can take on more disciples. Momentarily he touched his chin, although his saint-level qualifications are 1 level lower than those of Su Ming and Wu Xiaopang, he is still a good choice as the 3rd disciple. Just looking at the fiery gazes of those LSPs on the field staring at the mermaid girl, I couldn't help but feel a little headache. If he wants to accept this disciple, it may be quite difficult. Lao Wan's next introduction further confirmed this point. This mermaid girl has a mermaid water spirit body. If you can practice dual cultivation with it, you will gain great benefits. Especially water attribute monks can make your condensed water spirit more pure and gain the ability to breathe underwater. Even there is also a certain probability of obtaining the unique talent of the mermaid clan, the mermaid pilgrimage. Mermaid pilgrimage, this is a top-notch secret method that is comparable to spiritual level exercises and combat skills. After being used, you can receive the blessing of the Sea King, and your cultivation level will skyrocket in a short period of time. As far as our pavilion knows, there once was a man in the Central Territory. A monk who cultivated with the mermaid girl obtained this talent and used the mermaid pilgrimage in the subsequent battle. His strength soared from the peak of the golden elixir stage to the nascent soul stage in a short time, and his combat power greatly increased and defeated his opponent in one fell swoop. The peak of the golden elixir stage has soared to the nascent soul stage. Oh my God! What are the benefits of practicing dual cultivation with this mermaid girl? The whole place was excited. Originally, everyone looked at this mermaid girl out of curiosity. Now that they heard that it had this effect, many people's eyes suddenly became filled with fire. Seeing the fiery LSP looks of many male monks in the field, some female monks sneered, a bunch of lechers. In addition, this dual cultivation is not limited to male monks. Female monks can also perform dual cultivation with the mermaid girl through the intersection of spiritual energy. But what Lao Wan said next made many female monks stunned, and the next second their eyes all lit up. For a moment, both men and women present stared at the mermaid girl in the crystal cabinet as if they were looking at a peerless treasure. Facing these greedy eyes staring at her, the mermaid girl trembled, her delicate little face full of fear. Seeing that the atmosphere in the venue was stirring, Lao Wan immediately announced, the starting price for this mermaid girl is 20,000 spirit stones, and each increase in price must not be less than 1,000 spirit stones. Now, you can start bidding. 50,000, that there were many people in the venue who were about to speak, but a call for price immediately silenced the entire venue. Everyone looked at box 4 on the third floor. Are you going to be so crazy if you just ask for an extra 30,000? 60,000. At this time, another voice sounded, accompanied by the rough threatening voice of the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect. The Nanhai sect wants this mermaid girl. Anyone who dares to snatch it will be the enemy of our sect. Come again. Everyone was speechless. But not surprising either, the Nanhai sect is the overlord of the largest sea area in the central part of Nanyuan Prefecture. The most numerous people in the sect are water attribute monks. The significance of this mermaid girl to the Nanhai sect can be said to be extraordinary. 100,000. But less than half a second after the threatening voice of the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect fell, a faint bidding sound rang out. Everyone was stunned and looked at box number 4 again. Zhang Yun also looked at box number 4 with a surprised look on his face. Who is sitting here? You know, this box had already spent nearly 100,000 spirit stones to buy his 300-year-old high-grade elixirs, and now it costs another 100,000 spirit stones. 200,000 spiritual stones. Even some Yuanying stage monks may not be able to easily come up with it, right? It's troublesome. Looking at the mermaid girl below, Zhang Yun frowned secretly. In box number 10, the fifth elder of the Nanhai sect, who had a scar on his face, looked extremely ugly at the moment. As the elders of the Nanhai sect, they have always acted unscrupulously in Nanyuan Prefecture. Generally, as long as the name of the Nanhai sect is announced, others will tremble and give way. It's good now. First, a bastard in box number 10 dared to compete with him for blood essence. Now, the guy in box number 4 simply ignored his threats. He has never been so frustrated before. It seems that if we don't go on a killing spree today, the world will really forget who is in charge of this Nanyuan Prefecture. The fifth elder of Nanhai sect swept his gaze across box 4 and box 10, with murderous intent. In box 4. The people in Nanyuan's who are so interesting. As if feeling the murderous intention, the young man in the Chinese robe curled his lips. The young man in black holding the scabbard next to him said calmly, "Take a photo of this mermaid and leave. Don't be so anxious, let's stay and have fun." The young man in gorgeous robes licked the corner of his mouth. "Stop your madness, we are not here for fun," the young man in black said solemnly. "If something happens, we won't be able to bear the responsibility." I know, the young man in the gorgeous robe waved his hand and glanced at the shivering mermaid girl in the crystal cabinet on the stage. Suddenly, curiosity appeared in his eyes. Speaking of which, this little mermaid can actually escape from the elders and the others. Hearing this, the young man in black remained silent, but a trace of doubt flashed in the eyes of the mermaid girl as he stared below. The elders on their island are all top-notch masters. The mermaid in front of me, who was not even in the foundation building stage, ran away under the guard of their island elders. It's a bit strange when you think about it. Tell me, is it possible that one of the elders is short of spiritual stones? The young man in Hua Pao guessed and said with a smile, "Deliberately put her in the South Treasure Pavilion here, and then sent us to bring the spiritual stone." "Stop talking nonsense," the young man in black scolded. The handsome young man shrugged. 100,000 spiritual stones. The VIP in box number 4 bids 100,000 spiritual stones. Is there anything higher? In the auction house, Lao Wan asked loudly, already raising the auction hammer in his hand. Although this wave of bidding has just begun, the price is already in line with the psychological expectations of their auction house. After all, not many people in Nanyuan Prefecture can produce 100,000 spirit stones. No one said a word. Lao Wan didn't waste any time and directly lowered the auction hammer. Deal. Chapter 57, 12, Su Dai. You are listening at novelfold.audio. In box 4. Let's go. Upon seeing this, the young man in black held the scabbard and walked directly to the door of the box. The young man in colorful robes stood up and followed. Just as they were leaving the box, the doors of several boxes on the third floor opened at the same time, and at the same time many people in the venue below also quickly left the venue. In box number 12. Whether I can accept you or not depends on fate. Zhang Yun glanced at the mermaid girl who was being carried down, and let out a sigh of relief. Spend more than 100,000 spirit stones to bid for an apprentice. He gave up. There is no other reason, not enough spirit stones. He could sell a few more 100-year-old high-grade elixirs in exchange, but he didn't want to do this just to recruit disciples. After all, to accept a disciple, you still have to pay attention to fate. If you can't win the auction, let's see if we can win over this apprentice. Glancing at the crowd leaving the venue quickly, he immediately got up from the sofa and walked out of the box. As soon as I walked out of the box, I felt a few chi machines locked on my body. He didn't pay much attention and walked towards the second floor of the attic. When he came to the stairs, many women in Cheongsam were waiting here, including the mature woman who led him before. Mr. Yun, please follow me. Seeing him, the mature woman immediately came up to him. Zhang Yun nodded and followed the other party to a lounge on the second floor. Please wait a moment, sir, the deacon will be here soon. The mature woman said something before bowing and exiting the room. After Zhang Yun sat on the sofa and waited for 2 minutes, he saw the door being pushed open. The meticulous Deacon Lin walked in and immediately apologized when he saw him. I'm sorry, Mr. Yun. The settlement of the auction was delayed for a while, so you have been kept waiting. Zhang Yun waved his hand. Let's settle directly. Mr. Yun, you bought 3 items in this auction, including top-grade body tempering spirit fluid, white tiger glove, and golden sea spirit dragon essence and blood. The total cost of the 3 items you auctioned is 74,500 spirit stones. A total of 95,000 spiritual stones were auctioned for the century-old high-quality elixir. After deducting 3% of the commission, the total is 92,150 spiritual stones. Deacon Lin didn't waste any more words and immediately handed him 2 storage rings. After all the deductions, there are still 17,650 spiritual stones left, all in this storage ring. In addition, there are 17,650 spiritual stones left. These are the 3 items you took photos of, please keep them. Zhang Yun took it and checked it, nodded to the other party and prepared to get up and leave. Mr. Yun, please stay. Deacon Lin suddenly stopped him. Zhang Yun was confused. Deacon Lin looked outside the attic and said, Mr. Yun, there may be some unrest outside. If you are not in a hurry, you might as well stay in my attic for a while. It doesn't matter. Zhang Yunxiang smiled when he heard this, waved to him and left. Seeing him leaving so decisively, Deacon Lin narrowed his eyes and took out a sound transmission stone. After a moment of thought, go and pay attention. Yes, the sound transmission stone responded. Deacon Lin put away the sound transmission stone, looked at the direction Zhang Yun left and murmured to himself, who is it that can take out 3 century-old top-grade elixirs at once? As soon as he walked out of the gate of the South Treasure Pavilion, Zhang Yun saw a large carriage heading into the distance. There were obviously some large objects in the large compartment of the carriage, which looked heavy. It can be felt that there is a lot of aura following the carriage forward. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows slightly, glanced at the direction the carriage was driving, and followed it silently. The streets of South Mall were filled with the cries of many vendors. The carriage moved forward slowly, and everything seemed peaceful, but as far as Zhang Yun could see, he could already see the tops of many surrounding buildings, and at the corners of the streets, many figures were moving forward with the carriage. I'm afraid it will be very lively next time. Zhang Yun narrowed his eyes, holding on to the bamboo hat. He walked to a place in the street without following the carriage. Instead, he walked into a nearby restaurant called Nanyun Restaurant. Why did this guy enter the restaurant? Some people who were following Zhang Yun secretly frowned when they saw this. They thought Zhang Yun would follow the carriage all the way out of the city. Several of them thought for a moment and chose to continue following the carriage ahead. The remaining people were staring closely at the restaurant. Compared with the mermaid girl who had many people fighting for it, Zhang Yun's golden sea spirit dragon essence and blood was easier to obtain. Zhang Yun didn't pay attention to the actions of these people following him. After entering the restaurant, a waiter greeted him. This guest, what would you like to eat? I heard that your shopkeeper is a master chef. Zhang Yun asked. Our shopkeeper is indeed a master chef. The waiter nodded, and suddenly his eyes lit up. Sir, would you like to order some spiritual food? Zhang Yun smiled. Tell you shopkeeper, I want to eat fish. Fish? The waiter was startled and glanced at him. I'll tell our shopkeeper right now. Zhang Yun randomly found a seat and sat down, waiting silently. within 2 minutes, the waiter came back and said to him, "Sir, our shopkeeper said that there are many kinds of fish, and we need to confirm with you in person." "Okay." Zhang Yun smiled, "You lead the way, follow the other party to a kitchen in the backyard of the restaurant. Xiao Lu, go ahead and do your work. I'll receive this guest." A pleasant female voice came from the kitchen. "Okay, shopkeeper," the waiter responded and left the backyard. Zhang Yun walked into the kitchen. As soon as he walked in, as if he had touched some kind of restriction, the door behind him and the entire kitchen were immediately wrapped in a thin barrier, soundproof barrier. Zhang Yun shrugged and looked at the woman who was standing in front of the stove in the kitchen, stir-frying fish fillets. 12, long time no see, brush. The woman flicked the spoon hard, and a pile of fish fillets flipped out of the pot, flying like snowflakes, and landed accurately on a dinner plate that had been prepared on the table next to her. "It's done." After doing this, the woman took off her apron, turned around and looked at Zhang Yun head-on. Seeing the other party's appearance, even with Zhang Yun's concentration, he couldn't help but breathe quickly. Under the tips of her hair, which were slightly stained by sweat, was a stunningly beautiful oval face that was still stunning despite the use of makeup. What's even more touching is the pair of crystal phoenix eyes, which seem to have the ability to enchant people. Just one glance will make you feel trapped and unable to extricate yourself. So beautiful. Zhang Yun couldn't help but think of these 4 words in his mind. "I haven't seen you for a while. Is your concentration so weak?" The woman's chuckle suddenly came in front of her. Zhang Yun suddenly came back to his senses and his pupils shrank. He found that the woman was suddenly in front of him, almost pressing against him, and her tender white fingertips were gently rubbing the skin of his neck. "Do you know, the moment you lost your mind, it was enough for me to kill you 10 times. With a trace of cold sweat on his forehead, Zhang Yun smiled brightly and said, "I can't help it." "Who told us, Dame Su, to be so beautiful? It's been a while, I haven't seen you for a while. You've learned a lot with your little mouth." The woman smiled faintly and handed over a plate of fish fillets next to her. "Eat fish." Zhang Yun nodded and picked up the fish fillets. The woman in front of her is named Su Dai, which can also be called 12. Like him and the bald man who had been killed by him, he was the killer of Aurora Tower, ranked 12th. Unlike the fights between other killers in Aurora Tower, he had a harmonious relationship with this woman. One is because they both belonged to the second-floor owner. Second, and most importantly, when Aurora Tower sent out 10 killers for a big mission, the predecessor saved the other party's life. Since then, this woman has been grateful to him and gave him this address so that he can come to him at any time if he needs it. Unlike Zhang Yun, who was just a killer in the Aurora Tower, Su Dai was extremely famous in the entire Southern Territory killer circle and was dubbed the 12 Princesses. It seems that Su Dai loves the number 12. After joining the Aurora Tower, Su Dai never changed his ranking. The strength of other killers in Aurora Tower is determined by numbers, but Su Dai's strength cannot be represented by numbers. It was a coincidence that the predecessor was able to save the other party. In addition, Su Dai not only accepts commissions from Jiguang Tower, but also often accepts commissions in his own name, but only people who are familiar with her are qualified to come to her. Eating fish is Su Dai's rule. If you want to entrust her with anything, you have to eat a plate of fish cooked by her first. Whether to accept the commission depends on the taste of the fish. As a top chef, the taste of Su Dai's dishes depends entirely on his mood. When you're in a good mood, the food tastes great. When you are in a bad mood, any smell may appear. This is also the standard for accepting commissions. The former, take. The latter is not accepted. Zhang Yun picked up a piece of fish fillet and put it into his mouth. The fish meat melted in his mouth, sweet and fragrant, and tasted great. This also made him smile slightly. "Did you take it?" Su Dai smoothed her hair and said, "I'm in a good mood today. Tell me, what do you want me to help you with?" "2 things." Zhang Yun immediately raised 2 fingers. "First, I killed 20. When the 20 task deadline is up, someone from the 3rd floor owner should come to kill me. If there is any movement, let me know." 20 were you killed? Su Dai was slightly surprised. She had heard that Zhang Yun's cultivation level had declined, so she raised her eyebrows slightly when she thought about it. So, is your decline in cultivation level a lie? Zhang Yun just smiled. Su Dai said, I know about this. It is not so easy for the third floor owner to eliminate dissidents. In addition, the reason why the third floor owner is so anxious is also related to the fact that our second floor owner will come back soon. The master of the second floor is back. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows when he heard this. As for the third floor owner of Aurora building sending someone to kill him, he had not thought of seeking help from the second floor owner of his camp before because he knew that the second floor owner left the Southern Territory a few years ago because of something and has not returned yet. I just received the news not long ago. I will be back within 3 months at the latest. During this period, I will keep an eye on the third floor owner for you. Su Dai asked lightly, what's one more thing? Help me find an apprentice. Chapter 58, Stealing the Disciple. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Robbing an apprentice? Su Dai looked at Zhang Yun in surprise. One of your apprentices was robbed? No, Zhang Yun explained, it's to grab a future apprentice. I just participated in the auction of your Nanshang branch in the city, and the last lot was a girl from the fish tribe. I looked carefully and found that she has good bones and is very beautiful. You are suitable to be my disciple. A mermaid girl. Su Dai raised her eyebrows and thought of something. It seems that the businessman from Nangxingzhu brought it. Merchant from Southern Star State. You don't know, a businessman came to our South Mall a few days ago and sold a batch of Southern Star Prefecture specialties. Among the 6 states in the Southern Territory, the only one with a mermaid tribe is deep in the Antarctic Sea in the Southern Star Prefecture. Think about it, there is a high probability that it is that brought by a businessman from Nangxingzhu. Zhang Yun was stunned when he heard this and raised a big finger to Su Dai. As expected of the great beauty Su, she has a wide range of knowledge. She even knows where the mermaid clan is. Go out more often. Don't stay in Nanyangzhu and you will understand this too. Su Dai rolled her eyes at him. Will do. Zhang Yun smiled slightly. As a cultivator, his predecessor didn't like to go out during his daily practice, but now that he has traveled through time, he has the chance to visit the vast world of immortal Dao continent. Speaking of which, are you really robbing this mermaid girl just to recruit a disciple? Don't you have any other ideas? Su Dai suddenly looked at him, with a hint of teasing in her beautiful eyes. You're not here to tell me to accept a disciple with the intention of practicing dual cultivation with a mermaid, are you? Beauty Su, do you think I am that kind of person? Zhang Yun looked serious. Hey, can you believe what you men say? Su Dai sneered and waved his hand. Forget it, I don't care what you want to do with it, just pay first. The first thing is that you and I are in the same camp, and I can't watch you die. Keep an eye on the third floor owner. I won't accept your spirit stones. The second thing is that it's a bit troublesome to snatch this mermaid girl. There are too many uncertainties. Can you accept 20,000 spirit stones? No problem. Zhang Yun thought for a moment, nodded, and quickly took out 2 storage rings. Although he was kind to the other party, it was impossible to get Su Dai to help him without giving him some spiritual stones. This is also the style of their business. If you can do things, you must give them spiritual stones. A storage ring contained 20,000 spiritual stones. Su Dai checked it correctly. When he saw another storage ring, he looked puzzled. What's in this? Some spirit beast meat. Zhang Yundao contains a complete body of the golden core stage spirit brown bear king. Su Dai's eyes narrowed when he heard this, and he quickly picked up the ring and inspected it. He looked at Zhang Yun in surprise. Okay, can you still get such good ingredients? Wait, you gave this to me because you want me to help you. Making spiritual meals. Zhang Yun nodded. He also had another purpose in coming to Nanshang Mall during this trip, which was to find a spiritual chef to process the corpses of the spiritual beasts obtained from the 2 exchange meetings, which could also be said to be ingredients. Spiritual chef, this is a special profession in the immortal continent. They can retain the spiritual energy in the meat of spiritual beasts to the maximum extent and cook a variety of spiritual meals. The spiritual meals contain extremely abundant spiritual energy. Not only are they delicious, but the monks can directly improve their cultivation level after eating them. The more advanced the spiritual chef is, the better he can retain the spiritual energy in the spiritual beast meat in the spiritual meal through cooking. If it were an ordinary spiritual beast corpse, just cook it briefly. But cooking the bodies of golden elixir stage spirit beasts casually would be a waste of natural resources, except for the crystal core. The energy contained in every part of the corpse of this level of spiritual beast is not inferior to some elixirs. If you cook it casually, you may not be able to retain even a few tenths of the aura energy in the animal meat. Therefore, to deal with the corpse of such a spiritual beast, a spiritual chef is often required. Among the monks Zhang Yun knew, there were only two familiar spiritual chefs. One of them is Su Dai in front of him, a truly top-notch spiritual chef. The other one is the third elder of their Lingxian sect, but now that someone in the sect poisoned him has not yet been found out, he is not at ease with every elder of Lingxian sect. After all, he planned to make this spiritual meal and take it back to Su Ming and Wu Xiaopang. Once they were poisoned with the same poison as him, his two apprentices would probably die in minutes. As for Su Dai, he was one of the most trusted people in his predecessor, integrating everything from his predecessor. Zhang Yun was also affected by this emotion, and naturally trusted the beauty Su in front of him, and now the other party gave him a good impression. After Su Dai checked the various ingredients in the storage ring, he said, "You can make spiritual food. I don't count those other miscellaneous spiritual beasts. I will give you half of the body of the spiritual brown bear king as reward. I don't have any objections." Half. Zhang Yun bared his teeth and said, "It's a bit much." Multiple farts. Su Dai stared at her eyes, raised her proud chest and said angrily, "I am a top spiritual chef. Do you understand the value of the word top? If others ask me to make spiritual meals, they will have to pay a high price. That is, considering that you saved my life, I'm giving you this price. Is that too much for you? Don't get excited." Zhang Yun quickly waved his hand and said, "Half and half, I'll give you half." Snort. Su Dai gave a look that said, "You know what you are interested in," and said calmly, "After I prepare this spiritual meal, I will send it to the Lingxian sect for you. Now go and get your future apprentice back." Zhang Yun nodded, put on the mask and hat that he had put away just after entering the kitchen, and walked out of the kitchen. After waiting for less than half a minute, Su Dai changed into a smart red suit and put on a butterfly mask and walked out. The man held a sound transmission stone in his hand and said to him, "My people have received the news. Your future apprentice is approaching the West City Gate." West City Gate. Zhang Yun was stunned. Isn't it the South City Gate? Nanshang City is accessible from all sides, with gates in the east, west, north and south. Previously, he followed the carriage all the way to the direction of Nanyun Tower. He should be going to the South City Gate. Why did he turn to the West City Gate? What's happening here at the South City Gate is just a pretense. Su Dai said calmly, "The people who photographed your future apprentice are not stupid. Now they are using this guise to attract attention and take your future apprentice to the West City Gate." Zhang Yun looked stern. He had no doubt about Su Dai's words. After all, Su Dai is a local leader in Nanshang City, and basically no news in this city can escape her ears. Fortunately, he came to see Su Dai on the way. Otherwise, if he had just followed the carriage, he and this heaven-level mermaid girl might not have the fate of master and disciple. "I have sent people to pretend to be like you to lure away some of the tails on your side." Su Dai put away the sound transmission stone, walked back to the kitchen and said, "Now, follow me." Zhang Yun followed. I saw that there was an open underground passage in the kitchen now. Zhang Yun was not surprised. As a killer, most people will find an escape route for themselves in their residence. Su Dai jumped into the underground passage, followed closely by Zhang Yun. Going forward along this underground passage, we passed various forks along the way, and the whole thing looked like a huge maze. Zhang Yun secretly smacked his tongue. It is not easy to build such a huge maze underground. A local snake is a local snake. After twisting and turning all the way, I finally followed an upward staircase to an exit, but Su Dai was not in a hurry to open the floor cover and go out. He was holding a recording stone in his hand, and a picture clearly appeared on it. It is a wide mountain road with dense woods on both sides. This is the hill outside the West City Gate. You will definitely pass by here after leaving towards the West City Gate. Su Dai said something and took out the second recording stone from a hidden pavilion in the wall next to it. The picture that appeared on this video stone was of a forest. Behind the trees and in the grass, there were many masked men in black lurking there, their eyes fixed on the bottom of the mountain road. There are also several people who can be seen standing on the tree through a parallel perspective, but only their legs can be seen. Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows. Is there anyone else ambushing you? Mermaid girl, see you soon. Su Dai chuckled and said, there are more people than you think who want to double cultivate with her to improve their strength. These people don't want to spend spiritual stones, so they can only come and grab them like you. Zhang Yun touched his nose. What does robbery mean? I am doing it to recruit a disciple, right? Coming. Su Dai suddenly said. At this time, Zhang Yun's expression condensed, and he saw a carriage driving towards the bottom of the mountain road in the first video stone. Chapter 59, I can deal with him. You are listening at novelfold.audio. At the front of the carriage sat a young man in black clothes holding a scabbard in his hands. Zhang Yun stared at the young man in black through the screen, running the immortal eye technique, realm, golden elixir stage xiaocheng, physique, sword spirit body, kung fu and combat skills practiced, water spirit sword technique, triple water shadow sword, spirit talent, sword chi attachment, draw the sword and cut, weaknesses. The sword spirit body is defective, and the center point of the back is the sword spirit life gate. This young man holding a sword has a strong aura. He is not simple. Su Dai said, these people who ambush may not be able to get a good deal. Zhang Yun nodded, the sword spirit body is a famous name in the immortal continent. Monks with this kind of spiritual body basically have the strength to challenge higher levels. And that sword energy can even threaten the Nascent Soul Stage. There was a case in the Southern Territory where a peak sword cultivator at the Golden Core stage with a sword spirit body used his sword energy to leapfrog the level and severely injure a Yuaning stage sect master. He had used the immortal eye technique to watch all these people in ambush. Except for those people standing on the trees who could not be seen from a parallel perspective, the strongest among the others was a golden elixir stage xiaocheng, and the rest were all cultivation in the foundation building period. Although there are a lot of people, they may not pose a threat to the young man in black. Superior, not just as he was thinking about it, the group of masked men in black in the picture, under the command of the leader, the man in black at the golden elixir stage, had already begun to take action. Just a blink of an eye, a large group of men in black rushed out from the surrounding grass and surrounded the carriage. If you want to live, hand over the mermaid girl. The leader, the man in black at the golden elixir stage, pulled out a steel sword and pointed it at the young man in black who was holding the scabbard on the carriage. I have no desire to take action. The young man in black glanced at the man in black and shouted, get out. Court death. The man in black at the golden elixir stage raised his steel knife and slashed straight at the young man in black with a sharp edge. However, the moment he approached the carriage, brush. A sharp sword light suddenly appeared in the virtual space, and then, puff. Cutting of flesh and blood, the man in black didn't even react. His head separated from his body and flew up on the spot. Sir, sir. All the people in black around him were stunned and their eyes were full of disbelief. One sword. Just one sword. Their lord Jin Danchi is dead. Run. Run away. A group of men in black scattered like birds and beasts, turned around and ran away. The rat hiding in the dark, get out of here. The young man in black looked at Ling Ling and shouted lowly at the surrounding forest, and a sharp sword energy swept away. The few men in black who were too slow to escape were cut into bloody pieces by the sword energy on the spot. The sword energy that spread out at the same time cut off many trees in all directions. The people hiding on two of the trees were exposed, and they all fled with their swords. Some people who were not exposed hiding in other trees were also frightened and turned around and ran away. Underground stairs. What a fast sword. Looking at this scene on the screen, Su Dai's eyes narrowed slightly. Zhang Yun couldn't help but squint his eyes. During the whole process of this sword strike, even though he could only see the blurry shadow of the sword formed when the young man in black stretched out his hand to pull out the sword from the scabbard, he could not see the entire sword path clearly. Still grabbing it? Su Dai suddenly asked. Zhang Yun looked at her in surprise. Beauty Su, you're not going to back down right now, are you? He's just a young swordsman, so I'm not afraid of him, Su Dai said, it's just the power behind him. Have you thought clearly about it? Zhang Yun looked thoughtful. With a sword spirit body, he has the strength of the golden core stage at such a young age. The previous auction was able to bring out another 200,000 spiritual stones. Behind this young man in black, it is indeed very likely that he is a top power of some party, judging from the fact that the other party completely ignored the 5 elders of the Nanhai sect in the last bid. The force behind the other party is probably much stronger than that of the Nanhai sect. Such a force cannot be in Nanyun Prefecture. Combined with the other party's bid for his 3 future apprentices from the Mermaid clan, Zhang Yun said, Su Dai, do you think he is from Nangxingzhu? Nangxingzhu? Su Dai raised his eyebrows. It's possible. There are many powerful forces in Nangxingzhu. If you put it like that, this young man might even be from Qianhai Island. Thousand Sea Islands. Hearing this name, Zhang Yun raised his eyebrows. The previous enemy of the owner of the underground cave in Nanfeng Forest was Qian Haidao. He didn't expect to hear this name again so soon. Su Dai said, if they are from Qianhai Island, we will be in a lot of trouble. Zhang Yun glanced at her and said with a smile, Beauty Su, when did you become timid? Afraid of hands and feet? Su Dai snorted when he heard this, are you scared? I'm just reminding you. Also, let me tell you that in addition to the young man holding the sword, there is another person on this carriage, and his strength is probably not much different. If I want to take action, I can only help you deal with one person at most, and you have to deal with the remaining one by yourself. No problem. Zhang Yun smiled slightly and pointed at the young man in black in the picture, I can deal with him. You deal with him? Su Dai looked at him in surprise. Are you sure? In her opinion, even if Zhang Yun's realm has not fallen, he is still at the golden elixir stage. The strength may be stronger than that of the man in black who was killed by a sword before, but it won't be much stronger. Zhang Yun smiled faintly and said, Beauty Su, it seems that you don't know my recent achievements. I mind that you can go and investigate afterward. Achievements? Su Dai glanced at him suspiciously. Although she is in South Mall, she has a wide range of news channels. As long as there is a major event happening in Nanyun Prefecture, the news will be delivered to her within a week at most. Did it happen within this week? Then I'll have to investigate carefully afterwards. Su Dai glanced at him and said, since you are sure to deal with this young man holding a sword, there is nothing more to say. Go up. Zhang Yun nodded, snapped. Su Dai opened the stone cover above, and the two of them went up to the tree hole, which was several meters square. Through the gap in the tree hole, you can see that they are about 100 meters away from the mountain road where the carriage is located. The cover at the South City Gate has been exposed, we need to act fast. Su Dai suddenly took out a sound transmission stone and spoke to him after receiving the message. Zhang Yun nodded. Without saying much, the two looked at each other and rushed out of the tree hole, not far away on the mountain road. Senior brother, you are too gentle, you actually killed so many people. Inside the curtain of the carriage, the young man in the Chinese robe poked his head out and looked at the people who had fled around him, with a little pity. I still want to play. We don't have time to waste here. The young man in black spoke in a deep voice. In the middle of his words, his eyes suddenly flashed with a stern look. He unsheathed his sword and a sword light swept out towards the woods on one side. Several trees in the nearby woods broke, but there was no one behind the trees. The young man in black and the young man in colorful robe were both startled, and the next second they suddenly sensed something and they all raised their heads. Zhang Yun suddenly leaped above their heads and swept his sword across the carriage. Click. The entire roof of the carriage was cut open with a sword, revealing the situation inside the carriage. The young man in the Chinese robe sat on the left side leaning forward, while the mermaid girl was tied up and unconscious on the right side of the carriage. Seeing his future apprentice here, Zhang Yun let out a breath. Ha 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 ha. A burst of laughter also sounded at this time, and the young man in Chinese robe stood up in the carriage and stared at Zhang Yun with a smile. Interesting. Really interesting. I'm worried that no one will play with me. As he spoke, He jumped up and grabbed Zhang Yun with his right hand, but Zhang Yun didn't even look at it, because halfway through the swing of the claw, a big iron spoon suddenly came from one side, snapped. A precise hit on the claws of the hand sent the young man in Chinese robe flying away. Fairyland Chapter 60, Knocked Down with an Iron Spoon. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Seeing Su Dai appearing with a big iron spoon, the young man in black narrowed his eyes and grasped the hilt of the sword. Just when he was about to slash out with his sword, a sharp force suddenly came from his side, causing his expression to change, and he jumped up from the carriage. Brush. A flash of sword light fell, cutting off the reins underneath him. Zilyalu. The horse in front of the car immediately broke free and galloped towards the mountain road ahead. Your opponent is me. Zhang Yun stood in front of the carriage, flicked the Yuntian sword, and spoke calmly. The young man in black landed next to the carriage and looked at him coldly. Suddenly feeling the aura emanating from him, he was startled. The peak of the foundation building stage. Ah! The young man in black smiled. A person at the peak of the foundation building stage actually dares to call himself his opponent. The young man in black's eyes were cold, and he held the hilt and drew the sword slightly. Brush. A flash of sword light swept out instantly. The whole process is so fast that it is difficult to catch with the naked eye, but Zhang Yun had already been warned, and immediately jumped up from where he was, dodging the sword light sweep. He slashed his sword directly from mid-air, pointing directly at the young man in black. Seeing that he was able to dodge the sword, the young man in black was a little surprised, but he quickly reacted and drew his sword. Kang. The sparks from the collision of the two sword blades burst into the void. Zhang Yun cut off his sword, but the young man in black blocked it with his sword. Spiritual weapon. Feeling the sharpness of the Yuntian sword in front of him, the young man in black's eyes moved with a trace of passion. I want this sword. As he spoke, a surge of sword energy suddenly spurted out from the sword he was holding. At this moment, Zhang Yun felt the boundless fierceness sweeping towards him. Although he had taken precautions, his robes were still torn apart by the sword energy, and the entire hat was blown away, revealing multiple cracks in the mask on his face. For a moment, his entire body felt as if a sharp blade had been scraped across his body. Zhang Yun took a breath. The sword energy of the sword spirit body is really amazing. Seeing that although there was no injury on his body, the layer of spiritual energy that protected his body in advance had a lot of cuts, he was slightly stunned. The young man in black was surprised to see that Zhang Yun was not injured under the explosion of his sword energy. His sword energy cannot be blocked by the spiritual energy of a foundation-building monk. I just want to feel the sword energy, but I didn't expect the power to be so amazing. It seems that I can't feel it like this in the future. It's better to deal with the opponent directly if you can deal with it. Zhang Yun suddenly said to himself. The young man in black was startled when he heard this, and in the next second he felt as if a giant elephant had suddenly collided with the Yuntian sword in front of him. The young man in black was sent flying out with his sword and his body completely out of control. Whoosh. Before he could land from mid-air, a cyan phantom flashed under him. It was Zhang Yun. The sky sword in his hand was raised straight up, pointing directly at the young man in black who fell from the air. Not good. The face of the young man in black changed. He gritted his teeth and turned his body in mid-air. He turned the sword in his hand 90 degrees and slashed at Zhang Yun's stabbing sword, but when it collided with Zhang Yun's sword, there was no touching sensation as expected. Instead, his sword penetrated directly through Zhang Yun's sword. To be precise, it passed through a sword shadow. The sword and Zhang Yun holding the sword turned into nothing and completely disappeared under him. Where are the people? The young man in black was stunned. Here it is. Zhang Yun's voice in his ear caused his expression to change suddenly. At this moment, Zhang Yun appeared directly behind him, and the Yuntian sword pierced the center of his back without any pause. No! The young man in black screamed, but it was too late. Puff. Zhang Yun stabbed with his sword. In an instant, the young man in black was like a punctured rubber ball, and all his aura and sword energy was instantly discharged. The whole body became limp and fell to the ground like a puddle of mud. Zhang Yun landed with his feet on the ground, pointing the tip of his sword directly at the opponent's forehead. Looking at the tip of the sword in front of him, the young man in black was completely confused, lost. He actually lost to a foundation-building monk. Not far away, Su Dai and the young man in Hua Pao, who were not yet officially fighting, felt the movement and paid attention. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked and opened their mouths. What the hell? It's over. In such a blink of an eye, Zhang Yun chopped down the young man in black. Wait, Zhang Yun chopped down the young man in black. Su Dai reacted and looked at Zhang Yun in white, who was wearing a tattered mask and holding a sword as the hat flew away with wide eyes. A strange color flashed across his beautiful eyes. This guy actually killed the young man in black. How can it be, that the young man in Chinese robes, who always liked to laugh, the smile on his face froze at this moment, and his face was full of disbelief, his senior brother. A senior brother with a sword spirit body would be chopped down by a foundation-building monk? What a joke. Fake. This is absolutely false. I will tear you all to pieces. The young man in the Chinese robe suddenly roared, and an astonishing burst of blood energy erupted from his body. At this moment, the teeth in his open mouth gradually grew into several inhumanly sharp fangs. Both hands and feet turned into inhuman claws, a pair of pupils grew into vertical wolf pupils, and a red wolf tail grew out of his butt. He turned into a half-werewolf. Zhang Yun condenses his eyes and uses the immortal eye technique, realm, golden elixir stage xiaocheng, physique, acquired werewolf physique, talent, werewolf transformation. In this state, the all-round combat power is greatly improved, and the person becomes extremely bloodthirsty. Weakness, werewolf transformation can last up to 5 minutes. After consuming it to exit werewolf transformation, it will fall into a weak state. Kill. I'm going to kill you all. The young man in the Chinese robe exuded a ferocious werewolf aura, and his pair of wolf eyes locked onto Su Dai, who was right in front of him. Zhang Yun's face changed slightly and he quickly said, Su Dai, little. Snap. But just as he spoke, a heavy knocking sound was heard in the field. I saw Su Dai directly put a big iron spoon on the head of the young man in the Chinese robe, and cursed, What the hell are you screaming? It's so noisy. The young man in the gorgeous robe was shaken all over, and the werewolf transformation of his body was directly knocked back to its original state by the iron spoon. His eyelids turned white and he fell to the ground and passed out. Zhang Yun looked at this scene and was stunned. What the hell? With an iron spoon, this ferocious werewolf fell. What are you doing there? I don't want you as my future third apprentice anymore. Su Dai's voice came. Zhang Yun came back to his senses and noticed that the mermaid girl who was on the carriage had woken up and climbed out of the carriage at some point. Although the body was tied up, she was slowly wriggling toward the woods with her fish tail. Seeing that Zhang Yun and the two men were paying attention, the mermaid girl's face turned pale, and she quickly kicked up her fish tail and tried to escape into the woods. Zhang Yun came to her in a flash. The mermaid girl was so frightened that she twisted her tail and was about to fall to the ground. Zhang Yun reached out and grabbed her arm to prevent her from falling, and lifted it up. But when he grabbed it with his hands, the mermaid girl couldn't help but scream and tried desperately to struggle. Are you willing to be my apprentice? Zhang Yun didn't pay attention and asked directly. This made the struggling mermaid girl stunned. Apprentice? This person in front of me wants to accept her as his disciple. What a liar. The mermaid girl didn't believe it at all and continued to struggle. I don't like beating around the bush. I'm here just to accept you as my disciple. Zhang Yun said calmly and raised 2 fingers. I can swear on this with my Taoist heart. Hearing this, the mermaid girl was stunned. Swear with your heart. For a monk, Taoist heart can be said to be extremely important. If your Taoist mind is not stable, your future practice may go astray at any time. Dare you swear with your Taoist heart, this human being really wants to accept him as his disciple? Even Su Dai on the side was surprised when he saw this. This guy really wants to take on a disciple.